Welcome to the deep dive. We dig into the sources so you get the shortcut to being genuinely informed. Today, we're tackling a huge question. How does life manage to hang on, even when conditions get, well, unbelievably extreme? Think about Earth, billions of years back, not green and blue, but mostly white, ice everywhere, we call it Snowball Earth. That kind of begs the question, doesn't it? If life needs liquid water, how did anything survive a planet-wide deep freeze like that?
It's hard to even wrap your head around the scale. We're talking the Triagenian period, maybe 720 down to 635 million years ago. The average global temperature was probably colder than minus 50 Celsius. That's minus 58 Fahrenheit. Imagine the equator,
Yeah.
basically like Antarctica is today. So, yeah, the idea that life made it through, that's pretty remarkable.
Exactly. And new research is giving us fresh clues. We're looking at insights from a Science Alert piece. New clues emerge on how life survived Snowball Earth. It digs into some fascinating new findings, especially this discovery in a place you really wouldn't expect.
Right. I mean, there have always been ideas floating around. Maybe life survived in some open patches of ocean, or perhaps near deep-sea hydrothermal vents, or even buried deep under the ice sheets. But this new work points to another possibility, a really compelling additional kind of refuge. It sort of broadens the picture.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive, figuring out how complex life, which we see in fossils before and after this deep freeze, how it actually bridged that gap. And maybe these newly discovered micro-refuges are the key. So, okay, let's unpack this. What exactly did the researchers find? What are these micro-refuges?
Oh, it's pretty amazing. Scientists discovered this surprising variety of microorganisms actually thriving in these tiny little pools of melted ice,
Or in
of
Antarctica.
all places. And the hypothesis is that similar little ponds could have acted as safe spots, letting life sort of ride out the worst of Snowball Earth.
Tiny melted ice pools acting as havens. And the crucial thing here isn't just that life survived, but what kind of life, right?
Precisely. That's what makes it so significant. These little meltwater pools, these oases, might have been incredibly important for eukaryotes, the more complex cells, the ones that eventually led to multicellular life, to us. So these tiny ponds, they might look insignificant, but they could have been critical evolutionary hotspots.
Evolutionary hotspots in puddles. Wow. And the amazing thing is, we don't just have to guess what they were like. This research looked at modern versions of these.
That's right. They studied existing ponds right on the edges of the McMurdo ice shelf over in East Antarctica. A team from New Zealand went there back in 2018. And yeah, these things are small. We're talking maybe just a few meters wide, often less than a meter deep. They're like living labs for Snowball Earth conditions.
Okay, so what's actually living in these modern ponds? What did they find at the bottom?
They found these things called microbial mats, basically layers of slime built up by microbes over years. They can be a few centimeters thick, sometimes quite colorful, and you can often see distinct layers. And they're mostly made of cyanobacteria. Those single-celled organisms famous for being super tough. They can handle extreme environments. They've been around forever.
Okay, cyanobacteria, sure. Makes sense, they're survivors. But that wasn't the big surprise, was it? The shock was finding eukaryotes, too.
Absolutely. That was the kicker. They found clear signs of eukaryotes mixed in there. Things like different kinds of algae, maybe even tiny microscopic animals. And that really makes you rethink things. It challenges older ideas about what kind of life could possibly hang on in such isolated, really harsh spots.
And it wasn't just one type, right? The study mentioned a lot of variety.
Yeah, quite a bit of diversity. Tima Hussein, who led the study, is published in Nature Communications. She said, no two ponds were alike. And she also noted they found, quote, diverse assemblages of eukaryotes from all the major groups in all the ponds studied. It seems like the amount of salt in each pond might have played a role in exactly what lived where. So it shows these tiny, unique spots can shelter a real mix of life, even right next to each other. Life adapts.
It's incredible, such a story of resilience on early Earth. So let's connect the dots. How does understanding this help us look for life out there beyond Earth?
Well, it gives us new places to look, or new kinds of places. When we think about searching for life on icy worlds, like moons in our own solar system, these studies of extreme life here on Earth are invaluable. They give us models for what habitable environments might look like, even if they're hidden under ice.
Are there specific places you're thinking of? Like, where might this Antarctic research really apply?
Oh, definitely. The obvious candidates are moons, like Saturn's Enceladus or Jupiter's Europa. We know they're covered in ice, but there's strong evidence they have huge oceans of liquid water underneath. So this research gives us a plausible scenario for how life, maybe simple life, maybe even something more complex, could potentially survive in meltwater pockets or near vents under all that ice.
And we're actually looking, aren't we? This isn't just theory.
Exactly. The source material points out several space missions are already launched or being planned specifically to investigate these icy moons. It really shows how this kind of research, seemingly focused on Earth's deep past, has direct relevance for finding life elsewhere.
So wrapping up this deep dive, it really drives home how incredibly resilient life is. It managed to survive planetary catastrophe by finding refuge in these tiny, almost hidden spots like meltwater ponds. It really forces us to think differently about what makes a place habitable, not just way back on early Earth, but potentially across the universe.
Absolutely. It's a potent reminder that looking at our planet's own history, even its most extreme periods, can give us vital clues. Clues not just about our own origins, but about the chances for life existing in places we might have previously written off. It just broadens the search space, really.
So here's something to chew on. If we find this much surprising diversity crammed into tiny, isolated meltwater ponds here on Earth, what might that imply about the kind of unexpected, varied life that could be hiding, maybe even thriving, in those hidden water pockets under the ice of Europa or Enceladus? What sort of mind-blowing discoveries, what aha moments are potentially waiting for us out there as we keep exploring? Welcome to